We wanted to make a video about how we got into small-scale pig raising. I guess you could call it raising pigs on a budget, because that's really how we got into it. We always had wanted animals. We had always lived in subdivisions our entire life, with people living 15 or 20 feet from you, and we back in 1999 we finally were able to move out onto a 40-acre farm that was from the 1930s, and it had a really small house, but it had great land, great pasture, great woods. So this was our big opportunity to start doing something that we'd always wanted to do on an agricultural scale. So we got a milk cow, and she was due to calve in the winter. This was around, I guess, August, but we wanted to do something that was simple, that would put food on the table, and that didn't cost a lot of money. And so here in Georgia we have a market bulletin put out by the Department of Agriculture, and there were 2 pigs for sale about an hour and a half away. They were piglets. They were $25 a piece, and we drove over one day, got a dog kennel, and didn't know anything about what we were doing. We had never had animals like this. The only ever animals we'd ever had were dogs and cats. And so we went over and we met the man, and he, as it turns out, he had been raising pigs since 1962. He raises purebred landrace, which is a Danish breed. So we got our first pigs, and we brought them home. And the farm that we were living on had been a hog farm at the time, and so there was already an enclosure for pigs. It wasn't real big. It was maybe 50 by 50, but we pretty much just put the piglets into the existing pen, gave them some food and water, and kind of let it go from there. Unfortunately, about a week or two later, we came home and the pigs had been killed by something. I don't know if it was coyotes or wild dogs, but whatever it was had just ripped them apart, not even eaten them. And it was very discouraging. And because what we'd always been told was pigs will go under a fence, but they won't go over. So we paid attention to the bottom of the fence to make sure they couldn't dig out, but we didn't really pay attention to how tall the fence was. And this fence at the time was down to about 24 to 36 inches, and it was way back in a wood line about 200 yards from the house, so it was unprotected and we could not see it even from the house, which was a bad place to begin with. But we decided to keep them there, but we shored up the fencing about another 3 feet, so now we had about 5 or 6 foot high fencing, and we got 2 more piglets, 2 more landrace, drove over and got 2 more, and put them in there, and we raised them out, and they did fairly well. For our first time, they did really, really well. And so from that point, and that was, 16 years ago, we've been raising at least 2 pigs a year on a small scale. We've done as many as 3. We've actually had a breeding pair at one time where we were raising 10 to 20 pigs a year and selling them. And the problem with pigs is the price of them can really fluctuate. We've seen them go for as little as 40 cents a pound, and now we're paying, we did pay $25 for piglets 16 years ago. Now we're paying upwards of $75 a piglet. And so we've got 2 now that I was going to show, but what I really wanted to focus on was the problems that we had when we first got pigs. Once we got past the initial step of how to enclose them, how to water them, how to feed them, how to keep them from getting out, and how to keep other things from getting in, is when it comes time to take them to market, how do you get them, because now they've gone from a little 40-pound piglet to a 250-pound hog, and you can't ever explain how strong a hog like that is until you've experienced, or try to enclose them in something they don't want to be in, or try to get them to go into something they don't want to go into. So the first experience, in fact the first few experiences we had on the day that we were going to take our hogs to the butcher was horrendous. I would build a pen and I'd introduce it to them at the last minute. They wouldn't go in it, and we've had pigs get out pigs be running free around the yards, in the woods. We've had all the children and us combing the woods, trying to corral the pigs back up to get them back into the fence. And it's a terrible thing when you've got an appointment with a butcher in 2 hours and you're trying to get these things loaded up and they're off and running into the woods. So that became the major pain point for us. Is, you know, on the mornings that we would be going to the butcher, I would be stressing out about how am I going to get them into the pen? Are they going to go? Are they going to get loose? So we've developed this system, I guess you could say, where I bought a hog trap, and it's a commercial, and you could build one of these on your own, I'm sure, but we saw them on sale one day. I think it was at Tractor Supply, and it was a commercial hog trap, and we use that as the foundation now for our pen. And the other thing we do that I'm going to show is the fact that we had pigs in one place for years and years, and when you have pigs in the same spot year after year, they just decimate everything that's there. They dig up, all the roots are gone, all the greenery's gone, all the low branches off the trees are gone. And not only that, but you know what I've been told is the parasites get into the ground, and then it becomes this cycle, which is how parasites, you know, live and grow and breed, is in this cycle of in the ground, out of the ground. And so we've come upon this method where we move them not just year to year, but actually multiple times through the year, or through the cycle of whatever, you know, we're doing at the time. As far as, do we have pigs right now? Are we raising them? If we're raising them for 6 months, let's say, and then we're taking 6 months off, during that 6 months while we have them, we'll move them several times. And so that's what I was going to show today, is how do you do this on a really small scale, inexpensively, but at the same time, at the end of, say, 4 to 6 months, depending on how quickly they grow out, how do you put 200 or 300 pounds of pork in your freezer for the year? And so this is just our experience. So this is the pen, and this was probably the biggest investment that we made in the whole hog enclosure. Like I said, I think it was about $300. These are landrace hogs, which are a Danish breed. It's very hard to find pure-blooded landrace. Most people will cross them with other breeds like Duroc and Hampshire or whatever. But there is a gentleman here in Georgia who has always raised pure-blood landrace hogs, or piglets, and like I said, we've been buying from him for 15 years, and we've tried raising other breeds, and they're fine, but we like the landrace because they're docile, they grow really fast, they're a little lean, they don't have a lot of fat on them, so they are kind of a lean hog, but they have a great taste to them, and they're pretty well mannered. As long as, like I said, as long as you keep them fed and watered, they do pretty good. But this is where we feed and water them only, and that's so that they get used to, from day one, coming into this pen. And you know, because trying to, you know, if you introduce it, and I've done this before, if you try to introduce this hog trap on the last day that you're taking, you know, on the day that you're taking them to market, chances are you are going to have a really hard time getting them to go inside that thing, because they've never seen it before. They don't like it because it's enclosed. You might get one in, and then you can't get the other in, and then once you've trapped the one, she gets very upset, and that upsets the other one, and there's no way the other one's ever going to go in at that point. So introducing this from day one when they're piglets, and making this the happy place where they always get food and water, makes it extremely easy on the day that you go to market, that you're going to get these things in there, close the doors, and you're set. We've got a trailer that has a winch on it, and I'll winch the whole trap with the hogs in it up onto the trailer, cover it with a tarp, give them some food and water for the ride. It's about an hour from here to where we take ours to get butchered, and man, it just makes it so much easier over trying to get them to do something they've never done before on the day that you really need them to do it. So that's the hog trap there, and I can't recommend it enough for just the ease of operation. So you see this wood line as it goes down along the edge of this pasture. Behind that wood line, that's about 50 to 75 feet deep there. And behind that is fencing. And so that fencing then forms the back to their pen. And we'll walk around and see that real quick. So here's the fence there. And what we do, and what we've always done, is we use cattle panels. And these here are 3-foot cattle panels, but I think I have some 4-foot around here. And I think right now we've got about 8 panels to our area. And what we'll do is we connect into this existing fence line here. What we do is we just connect into this existing fence line with trampoline springs. And this is what we've always used. Trampoline springs are just great for not just connecting cattle panel to cattle panel, but connecting cattle panels, as you see, to existing fencing here. And I think that the backside of this may be about 30 feet. And then at each joint of the cattle panels, we just hook in a couple of trampoline springs. I'll usually do this with vice grips to put as much pressure on them as you can. You can see over time the edge of these things get, they get warped and a little gnarly, but that's good because this overlapping works well to have kind of a push-pull effect where you're not always just pulling 2 panels apart or they're trying to separate. With that overlapping that takes place, it anchors, it locks it in on your corners, which is really important because, like I said, these hogs right now, they probably weigh upwards of 200 pounds. And if they wanted to, they could stick their snout under the bottom of that panel, any of these, and lift it up probably over their head. And I would show you, but I don't even want to show it to them because once they see it, they're going to know they can do it. So like I said, just keep them happy and keep them stupid, and they should stay in place. So this is what the woods look like before we move them, and we've never had them in this area before, and this is what it looks like after they've been in here a few weeks. And we'll keep them in an area for several weeks, and then we'll move them out. But they will turn all of this up. They'll rip out smaller roots. So a lot of the small underbrush will die out, and they'll leave it in a much more open area than when they started in. So I don't know how much you can pick this up and see, but this is kind of after they've been here a few weeks, and over here is what it looked like, before. So they do a really good job of cleaning an area out. So we keep the feed close by in a 55-gallon drum. And I'm just going to give them enough now to get them to come into the trap, and so we can get the doors. And of course, they're always happy. And so all you do now is just should have had my vice grip. Quietly and slowly drop these doors one at a time. I'll come around there and get that one. And now they're in, and they can't get out. So that right there, that took 30 seconds, has taken us 3 hours before.
Multiple weeks.
Yeah.
River, back away.
So now we're ready to move we're going to put a tarp on this because it's pretty sunny. And pigs don't have sweat glands, and we found that out the hard way before too. You gotta keep them And that's gonna spook them. They're not used to having a top on this thing.
They'll like it after a minute.
They like to be able to see out where they're going. They like to be able to think that, they don't like to think that they're in a total enclosure like a box. You just about can't trap a pig in a box. He's got to think he's got an exit somewhere, and that's where he's going to go if he gets scared. So we'll keep the end there uncovered, and this whole process is going to spook him a little. For one thing, we can't move them as much as they weigh, and the trap weighs. We're going to have to move them with a four-wheeler, and we've actually done it once already. I actually ended up moving them with the family van because the four-wheeler couldn't pull them, and they were actually pretty good with it. As long as they have food, they'll stay calm. So we'll go ahead and move the fencing now.
Well, if I wasn't scared, I'd come help you.
Come with me. Come in. Cut the hose. All right, can you? Okay. Where's my springs at?
Always be careful with the springs, that they can pop back and hit you, although we've never had that happen.
So now we've moved one side over of the fence that was over here. We've just picked it up and kind of flipped it over to this side here. Left the other side where it was. Actually kind of pulled it down a little bit to form what is now going to be our new chute.
To the pin.
With this forming this side, and that one now coming around from there on that side. And so we've got our distance here between here and here that where the pin's going to be moved to, hopefully with the four-wheeler. So we'll see. Show down here. Like I said, this may work or it may not. We're going downhill this time, where last time we went uphill and we needed the van to do it. But
I think you got about 200 more pounds of hog, though.
Yeah, and they weigh a lot more now than they did then. Hey, Gabe, come here, buddy. When I lift this up, you slide this up under right to about there, okay? Yes, sir. You ready? So this is their new, well, where their new, the new spot for their trap. And you can see they're now coming out into area they've never been before. Everything is pristine, and it's already eating a mushroom. Where he is. So they'll spend the next day or two just going through this area and turning everything up, getting all the new grubs, all the new roots. You can see this is the new fence line that we added. The one over there, where you see that far one and River of the Dog, is still the existing fence line that was there before. That was on the right side. Now it's on the left side. And of course it all comes up now into this new chute and the new spot for the pen. So they'll be really happy in here for the rest of the day and tonight. And the good thing is they won't eat as much feed for the next 48 hours because they prefer the wild stuff to the feed.